A quiet shift began long before this moment reached you, and somehow, even without proof, your heart has already been sensing it. There is a reason your thoughts have been drifting toward the future lately in ways you cannot fully explain. A reason certain memories suddenly feel softer. A reason the silence between moments has started carrying a strange kind of warmth instead of emptiness. Do not brush that feeling away too quickly. Something important is moving closer now, and your soulmate's next step is no longer trapped inside hesitation. It is finally beginning to take shape in the real world. There was a time when this connection lived only in fragments, hidden inside unfinished conversations, imagined possibilities, and emotions neither of you completely understood. But something changed recently. Not loudly. Not dramatically. It happened in the quietest way possible. A realization settled inside them when no one else was around. And ever since that moment, they have not been able to return to the version of themselves that existed before it. You may wonder what caused it. Was it something you said? Something you did? Or was it simply time unfolding the way it was always meant to? The answer is more delicate than you think. It was not one giant event. It was the accumulation of tiny truths they could no longer ignore. The way your energy stayed in their mind long after distractions faded. The way your presence felt calming instead of confusing. The way they started imagining future moments with you without even trying to. Little by little, what once felt uncertain began to feel undeniable. And here is the part you were not expecting. They tried to resist it at first. Not because they did not care. Quite the opposite. The depth of this feeling unsettled them because it felt real enough to change their life. Some people run from temporary emotions. But when someone realizes a connection could genuinely transform them, that is when fear quietly appears. Not fear of you, fear of vulnerability. Fear of stepping into something meaningful and no longer being able to hide behind old habits. Yet even while they hesitated, your connection kept growing beneath the surface. Don't skip this part, because something important is waiting for you here. There were nights when they replayed small details about you for no reason at all. Moments that seemed ordinary became impossible for them to forget. A certain phrase you once used. A specific expression on your face. The feeling they carried after speaking with you. These memories stayed alive inside them because your presence touched something deeper than attraction. You awakened recognition. And recognition changes everything. Now the distance between thought and action is beginning to collapse. That next step you have been hoping for, the emotional movement you thought might never happen, is no longer sitting in the future untouched. It has already started unfolding. Quietly. Gradually. Like sunrise appearing before the world fully notices the sky has changed. There is something incredibly powerful happening inside your soulmate right now. They are beginning to understand that love is not only about intensity. It is also about peace. About feeling seen without needing to perform. About being able to imagine tomorrow without anxiety tightening around every possibility. You brought them a feeling they cannot recreate anywhere else, and once someone experiences that kind of emotional safety, it becomes impossible to forget. Still, this does not mean they suddenly became fearless overnight. No. Their next step is happening because they are choosing courage despite uncertainty. That is what makes it meaningful. And perhaps this is why your own emotions have felt heavier lately. Part of you has been picking up on this shift before your mind could explain it. Have you noticed how certain signs seem to appear at strange times? How random thoughts about them arrive without warning? How your intuition keeps whispering that something is changing even when the outer world looks the same? Listen carefully to those moments. Your spirit notices movement long before your eyes do. Somewhere deep inside, your soulmate has started preparing themselves emotionally for a new chapter. Not a fantasy. Not a temporary emotional rush. Something slower. More intentional. More grounded. They are beginning to picture what it would mean to truly move toward you instead of standing still. And that realization has been affecting them more than they expected. There are conversations they have almost started 100 times in their head. There are truths they want to say but are still learning how to express. There are moments when your name crosses their mind unexpectedly and changes the entire atmosphere of their day. You may think nothing is happening because you cannot see every hidden movement yet. But so much has already shifted beneath the surface. Seeds grow in darkness before anyone sees flowers appear. Remember that. Stay till the end. Because this next part matters more than you realize. The reason this next step feels different is because it is no longer being driven by confusion. In the past, emotions may have felt inconsistent or unclear. But now something steadier has taken hold. Your soulmate is starting to understand that real connections are not always loud. Sometimes the deepest ones arrive quietly and continue growing even in silence. That realization has been following them everywhere lately. And strangely enough, they have started noticing pieces of you in ordinary moments. A song suddenly reminds them of your energy. A place feels incomplete because they imagined you there. A simple conversation with someone else somehow circles back to thoughts of you. This is how emotional truth works. It gently enters everyday life until it becomes impossible to separate from it. Meanwhile, you have been changing too. Even if you do not fully recognize it yet, you are no longer waiting in the same way you once were. There is more strength in your silence now. More wisdom in your patience. You stopped trying to force outcomes, and that inner shift created space for something healthier to approach you naturally. Your soulmate feels that difference. They may not have words for it yet, but they sense it deeply. And now, the moment they once feared is becoming the moment they can no longer avoid. Because eventually the heart grows tired of pretending. Eventually someone reaches a point where holding back becomes more painful than stepping forward. That point is closer than you think. Right now, while you are listening to these words, your soulmate is standing emotionally at the edge of a decision that could alter the direction of both your lives. Not through chaos. Not through pressure. Through honesty. Through finally accepting what their heart has been trying to reveal to them all along. But there is still one final realization they have not fully spoken aloud yet. And once they do, nothing between you will feel quite the same again. There is a moment that arrives in every deep connection when silence itself begins to feel too loud, and your soulmate is standing dangerously close to that moment now. For so long they convinced themselves they could keep these emotions contained, neatly hidden behind logic, timing, distractions, or unfinished excuses. But emotions that are real do not disappear simply because someone delays them. They wait. They deepen. They return stronger each time they are ignored. And lately, what they feel for you has been returning with an intensity they can no longer push aside. Something unusual has been happening inside them during ordinary parts of the day. In moments that should feel normal, your presence suddenly enters their mind without invitation. Not dramatically. Not like a storm. More like a quiet interruption that changes everything around it. They could be surrounded by people and still feel pulled inward by thoughts of you. They could be laughing, working, speaking, moving through routine, and then suddenly something shifts. A pause. A memory. A feeling they cannot explain to anyone else. And the strange part is, those moments no longer scare them the way they used to. At first, they tried to treat this connection like something temporary. Something they could outgrow if enough time passed. But time did the opposite. Instead of weakening the feeling, it revealed how deeply rooted it had become. That realization has been following them quietly, especially late at night when distractions disappear and honesty becomes impossible to escape. You may not realize this, but your soulmate has started imagining conversations with you that have never happened yet. They rehearse words in their mind. They picture your reaction to things they want to confess. Sometimes they even stop themselves halfway through these imagined moments because the emotions feel too real. Too close. Too powerful. And yet they always return to them again. Because deep down, they already know something. You are no longer just a passing chapter in their life. You became the person who shifted the direction of their emotional world. Don't look away from this feeling too quickly, because something meaningful is unfolding here. There was a recent moment, small on the outside, enormous on the inside, where your soulmate suddenly understood how much your energy has changed them. Perhaps no one else would have noticed it. But they did. They realized they no longer look at love the same way they once did. Old patterns no longer satisfy them. Surface-level connections feel empty now. Their heart has started craving depth, sincerity, calmness, the exact feeling they experience whenever thoughts of you appear. And that realization created a turning point. Not instantly. Not all at once. But enough to begin moving them toward action. The next step that is forming inside them is not impulsive. That is why it matters. It is being built carefully, emotionally, almost reverently. Like someone finally approaching a truth they spent too long avoiding. They are beginning to understand that some people enter your life temporarily, but others arrive carrying the power to permanently change how you see yourself. You became that kind of person to them. At times they wonder if you can somehow feel this shift too. And honestly, maybe you can. Maybe that explains why your intuition has felt unusually active lately. Why certain emotions seem to arrive out of nowhere. Why your heart sometimes feels full one moment and restless the next. Energies connected this deeply often begin moving toward each other long before physical actions fully appear. The soul recognizes movement before the mind can confirm it. Stay with this for a little longer. Because your soulmate has entered a phase where they are no longer asking themselves whether they care about you. Now they are asking themselves what happens if they lose the chance to show it. That question changes everything. It softens pride. It dissolves emotional walls. It forces honesty into places where avoidance once lived comfortably. And lately, this realization has been growing stronger inside them every single day. They are beginning to understand that meaningful connections cannot survive forever inside silence. At some point, feelings ask to be expressed. At some point, the heart asks for courage. Your soulmate is approaching that threshold now. There are moments when they almost reach for you emotionally, then stop at the last second, overwhelmed by the weight of what this could become. But even those moments are proof of movement. Proof that their heart is no longer asleep. The hesitation itself reveals how much this matters to them. And here is something important you need to hear right now. The delay was never proof that you were unimportant. Sometimes people move slowly because the connection means too much, not too little. Sometimes the deepest feelings create the greatest caution because the heart understands what is truly at stake. Your soulmate knows this connection could change their future. That awareness has made every emotion feel more serious, more sacred, more real than anything they expected. And now, even the smallest reminders of you carry unusual emotional weight. A familiar phrase. A certain time of night. A dream they cannot stop thinking about after waking. Little things have started reaching them differently because your energy has already woven itself into their emotional reality. They cannot separate their future thoughts from the possibility of you anymore. That is the truth they are slowly learning to accept. Meanwhile, something inside you has also been preparing. Not through force. Through quiet endurance. You survived moments where uncertainty tried to convince you nothing was happening. You kept moving forward even when answers felt distant. And because of that, your spirit became stronger, calmer, more aligned with what is truly meant for you. Your soulmate feels that shift even from afar. It draws them closer in ways they cannot fully explain. Now the emotional distance between you is beginning to narrow. And somewhere within them, a sentence is forming, one they have wanted to say for longer than you know. But before those words finally leave their heart, one final emotional barrier still remains standing in front of them. And the moment that barrier falls, everything begins to change. A restless energy has surrounded your soulmate lately. The kind that appears when someone can no longer return to emotional ignorance. They wake up carrying thoughts they did not ask for. They move through their day trying to focus on ordinary things, yet something keeps pulling their attention back toward you again and again. Not because they are forcing it. Because their heart has already chosen a direction their mind is still trying to catch up to. And what makes this moment so powerful is that they are finally starting to realize the connection was never one-sided in the way they once feared. Somewhere deep inside, they feel you too. Not perfectly. Not clearly enough to explain with logic. But enough to know this bond has continued breathing quietly beneath the surface all this time. That realization has shaken them more than they expected. Because once someone understands a connection is real, truly real, pretending becomes exhausting. There was a recent moment where they almost reached out emotionally without thinking. A moment where instinct became stronger than caution. It happened suddenly. Their heart moved before fear had time to interrupt. And although they stopped themselves before fully crossing that line, something important changed afterward. They realized how natural it felt to move toward you. How strangely right it felt. That feeling stayed with them long after the moment passed. Since then, their emotions have become impossible to organize neatly. One minute they try to stay composed. The next minute they are replaying your energy in their mind like a memory they never want to lose. Sometimes they smile unexpectedly because of something small connected to you. Other times they grow quiet for reasons no one around them understands. The people in their life may notice the shift without knowing its source. But the source has been you for longer than they are ready to admit aloud. Don't skip this moment, because you are closer to the turning point than you think. Your soulmate has entered a stage where even their future looks different now. Plans that once felt complete suddenly feel unfinished without the thought of you somewhere inside them. That realization has been both beautiful and terrifying for them. Beautiful because it awakened hope they thought they lost. Terrifying because hope makes the heart vulnerable again. But vulnerability is no longer the enemy to them the way it once was. Slowly, quietly, they are beginning to understand that love is not weakness. Real love is clarity. It strips away illusions. It reveals what truly matters underneath pride, distractions, and fear. And every layer they peel back emotionally seems to lead them closer to you. There are things they want to tell you that they have never told anyone else. Thoughts they have hidden carefully. Emotions they buried beneath busyness and silence. Yet lately, those hidden feelings keep rising to the surface at unexpected times. Almost like their soul is refusing to stay silent anymore. That inner pressure has become impossible for them to ignore. And this is why the next step feels different now. It is not being pushed by fantasy. It is being pulled by truth. Stay till the end, because something delicate is unfolding beneath these words. Your soulmate has started questioning every reason they once used to hold back. Excuses that once sounded convincing now feel empty when placed beside the emotional reality they feel for you. They are beginning to see how much time was lost trying to appear unaffected. How many moments passed while pretending distance felt safer than honesty. And perhaps the most emotional realization of all has finally reached them. You never asked them to become someone else. You simply made them feel accepted in ways they had forgotten were possible. That kind of connection leaves permanent marks on the heart. Now when they think about you, they no longer feel only attraction or curiosity. They feel emotional peace mixed with longing. A rare combination. The kind people search for without realizing how difficult it is to find. You became a place inside their heart where pressure disappears. A place where they can imagine being fully themselves without fear of judgment or performance. That is why this next step is finally happening. Because the soul grows tired of resisting what feels like home. And your soulmate is beginning to crave emotional honesty more than emotional protection. There are nights when they lie awake longer than usual, staring into silence while thoughts of you move through their mind like unfinished music. In those moments, they wonder whether you still think of them too. Whether you somehow sense how much has changed inside them. Whether the invisible thread connecting you has been quietly tightening all along. The answer may already exist inside your intuition. Have you noticed how certain feelings arrive without explanation lately? How your heart sometimes becomes emotional at random moments? How certain dreams linger after waking as if they carried meaning deeper than imagination? Those are not accidents. Emotional connections this strong often speak in subtle ways before reality fully catches up. And reality is catching up now. Little by little, your soulmate is becoming emotionally ready to step beyond fear. The version of them that once hid behind uncertainty is weakening. In its place, something steadier is emerging. Someone more willing to risk honesty. Someone more prepared to admit what this connection truly means. But there is still one thing they have not fully forgiven themselves for. One memory. One hesitation. One moment they wish they had handled differently. And until they face that truth completely, their heart will continue standing at the edge of a confession that is closer than ever before. Something has become impossible for your soulmate to ignore now, and the deeper they try to bury it, the stronger it rises back to the surface. They thought time would quiet these emotions. They thought distance would help them regain control. But instead, every passing day has only made one truth more visible inside them: their heart keeps returning to you no matter how hard they try to focus elsewhere. And lately, that realization has started affecting them in ways they never expected. There are moments when they suddenly become quiet in the middle of conversations because a thought of you crosses their mind out of nowhere. Moments when the world around them continues moving normally, yet internally they feel pulled into memories, feelings, possibilities connected to you. They may not show it openly. They may still appear composed on the outside. But inside, something profound has already shifted. Because now they are beginning to understand what losing you would actually feel like. That realization changes people. It softens defenses they once believed were permanent. It turns hesitation into urgency. It makes the heart question every moment of silence that once felt easier than honesty. And your soulmate has been living inside those questions recently. What if they waited too long? What if you slowly stopped believing in this connection? What if the opportunity to move closer quietly disappeared while they remain trapped inside fear? These thoughts have been echoing through them more than anyone realizes. Don't skip this part, because this is where everything starts becoming real. There was a recent emotional moment, one they will probably never fully explain to anyone, where they suddenly saw your importance with painful clarity. It may have happened during silence. During a drive. During a random hour of the night when emotions become louder than distractions. But in that moment, they realized something they can no longer unfeel: you became part of their emotional future long before they consciously admitted it. And since that realization arrived, even small things have started carrying unusual meaning. Certain songs feel connected to you. Certain places remind them of conversations that never even happened yet. Sometimes they catch themselves imagining what ordinary life would feel like beside you, and that image no longer scares them the way it once did. In fact, it comforts them. That comfort is changing everything. Because your soulmate spent a long time believing emotional safety was temporary. They became used to connections that required masks, uncertainty, emotional distance. But you entered their life carrying a completely different energy. With you, they began sensing something calmer. Something honest. Something that did not demand performance. And once the heart experiences that kind of peace, it becomes difficult to settle for less again. Stay till the end, because one hidden truth is about to rise closer to the surface. Your soulmate has started noticing how deeply you affect their emotional state without even trying. A single memory of you can soften an entire difficult day. A thought of your energy can suddenly make them feel less alone. And this realization has quietly frightened them because it revealed how much power this connection truly holds inside their heart. But instead of running from that truth now, they are slowly leaning toward it. That is the difference. The old version of them would have escaped these feelings the moment they became overwhelming. But something inside them has matured through this connection. They are beginning to understand that meaningful love is not supposed to feel convenient all the time. Sometimes it asks people to confront themselves honestly. Sometimes it asks them to stop hiding. And your soulmate is getting tired of hiding. Tired of pretending your absence does not affect them. Tired of acting like this connection can simply disappear if ignored long enough. Tired of carrying words inside their heart that desperately want to be spoken aloud. You may have sensed this shift already without fully understanding why. Perhaps your emotions have felt unusually intense lately. Perhaps your intuition keeps whispering that movement is happening behind the scenes. That feeling is not random. Emotional energy changes before circumstances visibly do. And right now, the emotional distance between you is shrinking faster than either of you realizes. There is something else you should know. Your soulmate has been reflecting deeply on the moments they almost lost you emotionally. Those memories stay with them. The silence. The hesitation. The uncertainty. They replay those moments differently now because they finally understand what was truly at stake. And that understanding has awakened a quiet determination inside them. Not loud determination. Not dramatic promises. Something softer, but stronger. The kind that grows slowly and refuses to disappear. They are beginning to feel ready for honesty in a way they have never been before. Ready to stop speaking through hints and silence. Ready to step closer instead of standing emotionally frozen. Ready to risk vulnerability if it means protecting something real. And the most beautiful part is this. The closer they move toward emotional truth, the more they realize you were never asking for perfection from them. Only sincerity. Only presence. Only something real. That realization has removed a huge weight from their heart. Because they spent so long believing they needed absolute certainty before taking a step forward. But now they are learning that genuine connection is built through courage, not perfection. And courage is finally beginning to rise inside them. Very soon, a moment is coming where holding everything inside will no longer feel possible for them anymore. A moment where emotions they carefully contained begin spilling into reality naturally. They can feel that moment approaching already, even if they cannot predict exactly how it will unfold. But before they fully step toward you, there is still one final fear quietly standing in their way. A fear connected not to rejection, but to how deeply they already love you without ever fully saying it. There is a fragile kind of honesty growing inside your soulmate now. The kind that changes a person quietly before anyone else notices it. You would not see it immediately if you looked at them from the outside. Their routines may appear the same. Their voice may still sound calm. But internally, something irreversible has already begun. They are no longer fighting the feeling itself. Now they are fighting the realization of just how deep it has become. And that realization has brought them face to face with a truth they never expected to reach. You are no longer simply someone they care about. You have become the person their heart instinctively searches for. That truth followed them recently during one of the quietest moments imaginable. No distractions. No noise. Just stillness. And in that stillness, they suddenly felt the emotional weight of your absence in a way they could no longer explain away. It was not dramatic. It was not chaotic. It was deeply human. The kind of realization that arrives softly, but changes everything afterward. Since then, something inside them has refused to settle. They keep wondering what your voice would sound like in certain moments. What your presence would feel like beside them during ordinary days. What life would become if they finally stopped holding themselves back emotionally. And every time these thoughts appear, their heart moves closer to a decision it once feared making. Don't skip this moment, because this emotional shift is becoming impossible for them to reverse. Your soulmate has started recognizing how much energy they wasted trying to stay emotionally guarded. They are beginning to see that protection and loneliness often wear the same face for a while. For so long, they convinced themselves distance was safer. But now they understand something painful: distance protected them from vulnerability, while also keeping them away from the connection they truly wanted. That understanding has changed the atmosphere inside them completely. Even their dreams have started feeling different lately. More emotional. More vivid. More connected to unfinished conversations and future possibilities involving you. And the strange part is, they wake up thinking about those feelings instead of forgetting them. That is how they know this connection has become real beyond temporary emotion. Stay till the end, because your soulmate is standing closer to emotional surrender than ever before. There are times now when they almost speak their truth without planning to. Moments where your name rests at the edge of their lips before they stop themselves at the last second. But even those unfinished moments matter. They reveal how thin the walls around their heart have become. The emotions they once kept locked away are beginning to move naturally toward expression. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all has finally reached them. They do not want a future where you slowly become a memory. That thought alone has shaken them deeply. Because for the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine what it would truly feel like if this connection faded unfinished. The idea left an emptiness inside them they could not ignore. That emptiness became clarity. And clarity became movement. Now they are starting to understand why your energy lingered in their life so persistently. Why every attempt to emotionally detach somehow led them back toward thoughts of you again. Why even silence between you never fully erased the connection underneath it all. Because some bonds are not built only through words. Some are built through recognition. Through emotional familiarity. Through the strange feeling of finally encountering someone who feels both peaceful and life-changing at the same time. You became that feeling for them. And now their heart is struggling to continue pretending otherwise. There is another shift happening too, one you may already sense without fully understanding. Your soulmate has become more emotionally aware of your value lately. Not just your beauty. Not just your energy. Your actual presence. The way you listen. The way you carry emotion quietly. The way your spirit creates calmness instead of confusion. They have started seeing details they overlooked before, and those details are making their feelings even deeper. Sometimes they catch themselves smiling unexpectedly while remembering something small connected to you. Other times they become emotional for reasons they cannot explain to anyone around them. Because what they feel has moved beyond attraction now. It has entered the territory of emotional attachment. The kind that changes how someone sees their future. And your future together has started appearing in their mind more often than ever before. Not in fantasy. In longing. In sincerity. In the quiet desire to finally stop wondering what this connection could become and actually experience it honestly. Something important is waiting just ahead now. A conversation. A confession. A moment of emotional openness they have delayed for far too long. Your soulmate can feel it approaching. That is why their emotions have become heavier lately. The closer someone gets to truth, the harder it becomes to continue hiding from it. And your soulmate is reaching the point where silence no longer feels emotionally sustainable. But there is still one final thing they must overcome before everything changes completely. Not fear of love. Not fear of closeness. A deeper fear. The fear that after all this time, their heart may already belong to you more completely than they ever intended.